Think Indian food is just those gross-out street clips online? Give me 10 seconds. Here, the hand is a sacred utensil. Dahi puri pops like fireworks. And wait for it, there's a dessert made from onions that flips every assumption you have. From curbside carts to a microbiologist's kitchen in Dharavi, 5 plates unlock 5 doors. Faith, technique, hygiene, regional diversity, and a sweet twist ending. Ready? Because the truth is richer than the rumor. 5 plates of India. A true story about taste, faith, and the things we think we know. On my first night in Mumbai, a monsoon cloud turned the city neon. Rickshaws hissed by like beetles. Cricket fans argued in front of TVs. And the smell. Ginger, diesel, coconut oil, something toasty, hung in the air like a promise. At a corner stall, a man in a white cap flipped a griddle cake with a spatula that had seen more innings than the national team. He looked up and grinned. "You've come for the scary food, right?" he said. I laughed because he had caught me. I'd seen those viral clips that make Indian street food look like a dare. Fiery gravies, hands plunging into bowls, and the occasional stunt that exists only for the camera. But I'd also done my homework. India, now the world's most populous country, has a food story that is less about shock and more about how faith, geography, and history shape what's on the plate. So I told him, "I'm here for the truth." "Then you need a guide," he said, nodding toward a woman balancing a tote bag of cookbooks like it weighed nothing. "Mira. She writes the footnotes behind our food fights." Mira Bhattacharjee, the food historian I'd messaged 3 weeks earlier, walked me through the first of 5 plates that would change my mind. She called them keys. Each would open a door that internet videos never show. Plate 1, the hand. We didn't start with food. We started with a bowl of warm water and a stainless steel jug of drinking water that Mira poured over our fingers. "Most of India eats with the hand," she said, matter of fact. "Right hand, traditionally. Not because forks are unknown, but because food is also a conversation with the divine. Prasad, the food offered to gods, is received by hand. When you touch your food, you feel temperature, texture, balance. It slows you down." The vendor slid over our first bite. Dahi puri hollow, crisp puri shells stuffed with spiced chickpeas and potato, topped with yogurt, tamarind, green chutney, and a shower of crunchy sev, fried gram flour noodles. Mira taught me the technique. Cradle the puri, tilt your head, 1 bite. The shell shattered like glass. Cool yogurt met sweet sour tamarind and a minty, chilly bright green. It was loud in flavor and in mouthfeel and absolutely tidy. Across the lane, a young couple watched me with amused sympathy. "First time?" they asked. I nodded and Mira added quietly, "To be clear, there are plenty of restaurants with cutlery and excellent hygiene, but the hand isn't unclean by default. Clean hands make for mindful eating. That's a value here." That was key one. The hand is not a stunt. It's etiquette, faith, and sensory intelligence, all at once. Plate 2, 2 faiths, 1 street. We ducked into a side alley where the smoke smelled like history. On one side, a Muslim kebab cart sent up ribbons of cardamom and charcoal. On the other, a Hindu sweet shop stacked silver-leafed confections like temple steps. India's kitchen is famously diverse, and while the internet likes easy narratives, the real story is messy and beautiful. "Religious food rules here are varied," Mira said. "Many Hindus avoid beef. Many Muslims avoid pork and eat meat that's halal. Jains have a strict vegetarian practice and often avoid root vegetables. In parts of South India you'll find long vegetarian traditions. In coastal regions, fish and coconut rain. The point is, there isn't one Indian diet. There are thousands. From the kebab cart, Arif, lean, watchful eyes, hands that moved like poetry, handed me a skewer. "Sikh kebab," he said. "Lamb, coriander, green chili, a bit of ginger and garlic. Eat with onions, lime, and a sprinkle of chaat masala." From the sweet shop, the owner offered gulab jamun, paneer and milk solid dumplings fried until bronze, then soaked in rose-scented syrup. I expected cloying. What I found was balance. The warmth of cardamom, the soft give of milk solids, the floral lift. These two counters face each other every day, Mira said. They feed each other customers. India's food story is plural. The arguments about what to eat exist, yes, but the marketplace has had centuries of practice serving difference on a single street. Key 2. India isn't a monologue. It's a duet, often a chorus, sung in spice and steam. Plate 3. The viral clip versus the everyday kitchen. You want to see something that scares the internet? Arif asked, amused. He led us to a late-night stall making and a burji pav, a tumble of spiced scrambled eggs served with toasted bread rolls. The cook cracked eggs with one hand and tossed in onions, green chilies, tomatoes, a dusting of garam masala. He worked fast, but cleanly, hot griddle, fresh ingredients, a system born of repetition. There was a sink, a line of bottled water, and a mother who scolded anyone who cut corners. Here's the unglamorous truth I watched all week. Many street vendors are obsessive about freshness because reputation is oxygen. Regulars are merciless. That doesn't erase the reality that sanitation varies widely across a country this big. Nor does it pretend that travelers never get sick. But the logic of all street food is dirty, collapses the moment you see how carefully so many vendors manage rhythm, heat, and turnover. To stress test assumptions, Mira brought me the next morning to a home kitchen in Dadar. Mrs. Shah, a Jain grandmother with the rhetorical power of a Supreme Court lawyer, demonstrated Appam, a South Indian griddle cake made from fermented rice and lentil batter, topped with onions, tomatoes, and green chilies. Fermentation, she explained, isn't neglect. It's chemistry. It raises bioavailability, changes flavor, and makes breakfast easier on the gut. She flicked batter, scattered toppings, and slid the uttapam to me with coconut chutney. Tell the internet, she said, eyes twinkling. That clean is also relative to method. Frying at 180 degrees Celsius kills a lot. Boiling kills more. A properly fermented batter is safer than a spoiled one. We know the difference. Key 3. A 15-second clip can't teach you method. India's food sense is old, practical, scientific, and endlessly local. Plate 4. The slum, the scientist, and the myth of stomach of steel. The hard part of the story is not easy to tell. Mumbai's Dharavi, often called Asia's largest informal settlement, is not a theme park for disaster voyeurism. It is a living neighborhood with schools, temples, mosques, small factories, and thousands of kitchens. We went only with an invitation to visit Dr. Aparna Sen, a microbiologist who runs community workshops on water safety. Her home smelled like cumin and dish soap. People love the myth that residents here have stomachs of steel, she said, handing us cups of boiled, filtered water. It's not a badge of honor to endure pathogens. It's a reality of unequal infrastructure. Many families are meticulous with what they have: pressure cookers, boiling, drying in sunlight, filtering. Community kitchens in some lanes follow routines that would impress a lab manager. But clean water, proper sewage, consistent refrigeration, those are structural problems, not individual virtues. We ate batata veda, spiced potato balls dipped in gram flour batter and fried, served with green chutney and sweet tamarind. They were airy, the oil fresh, the line of customers long. A young man offered to show me his pantry. Spices in sealed tins, lentils in jars, a pressure cooker polished to a mirror. His pride wasn't in poverty-porn resilience. It was in skill. Dr. Sun gently corrected another myth I had picked up online, that people in so-called dirty places are somehow healthier because constant exposure toughens them. Some immunity does develop with repeated exposures, she said. But it comes with costs, missed work, stunted growth in children if infections are frequent, long-term gut issues. The goal is not to normalize getting sick. The goal is access. Clean water, consistent sanitation, affordable healthcare. Key 4. Food safety is as much about systems as it is about individual behavior. Don't mistake necessity for preference or survival for superstition. Plate 5. The surprise in the sweet. Mira promised me one dish that would scramble my expectations. I braced for a chili I couldn't finish. Instead, She took me to a Rajasthani sweets shop and ordered piyaz ka halwa, onion halwa. If you're picturing a caramelized onion tart, erase it. This was onion grated and slow-cooked with milk, ghee, clarified butter, sugar, and cardamom until it turned into something silken and perfumed. There was a whiff of allium, yes, but mostly the taste of warmth, like winter next to a stove. It was delicious in a way that felt transgressive. You came expecting fire, Mira said, and you got a dessert made from onions. Is this common? I asked. Regional, celebratory, and old, she said. Just like Appam in Kerala, fermented rice and coconut pancakes with lacy edges and a soft center, eaten with fish stew or vegetable curries, or masala vada from Tamil Nadu, crispy lentil fritters, crackly with curry leaves and fennel, or dabilai from Kutch in Gujarat, mashed spiced potatoes tucked into a bun with pomegranate seeds, peanuts, and chutneys. The map of India is edible. We spent a day tracing that map through kitchens and carts. I learned that Bombay sandwiches, layered with cucumber, tomato, beetroot, and green chutney, are a love letter to abundance on a budget. I tasted paneer kathi rolls, skillet-seared cottage cheese in paratha, from a stall that wrapped every roll like a present. I tried gathia, soft, fried chickpea flour batons, more tender than they look. My tongue was a passport. My assumptions were customs officials stamped, outdated. But the biggest surprise was still ahead, and it came with colors. The festival and the leaf. On Holi, the spring festival of colors, a lane near Worli exploded into laughter. Powdered hues turned friends into aliens. Drummers pounded out rhythms that made strangers into accomplices. A man in a saffron scarf approached with a plate of fritters. Bang pakora, he announced. Bang, made from parts of the cannabis plant, has a long ritual history in some parts of India, especially during Holi, where it's consumed in sweets or drinks like thandai in certain communities. Laws around cannabis vary by state, and sales are regulated. In places, licensed shops sell bang preparations for the festival. None of that nuance survives in the average internet thread. Mira handled it with the same clarity she had shown all week. We're not here to glamorize or trivialize, she said. We're here to explain. Ritual use exists, so do laws. If you're a visitor, don't assume, don't seek out what's illegal, and don't make a festival about your experiment. I passed on the pakora. I'm a cautious traveler. A grandmother cackled and popped one in her mouth anyway. Then she offered me a safer thrill. A smear of chaat masala on orange slices and a cup of cold, sweet lassi to cool the afternoon. Key 5. Context changes everything. A leaf can be a sacred symbol, a regulated substance, a taboo, and a recipe note, depending on where you stand and who you ask. There's a genre of video designed to go viral. A man squeezes a lemon with his elbow. Another crushes bread underfoot. Someone assembles a sandwich on a moving scooter seat. They're made to be shared, to ignite disgust, to rack up views. Spectacle, Mira said, is not the same as culture. If you want reality, here's what I actually saw. Vendors rinsing herbs in filtered water, because wilted cilantro kills sales. Pressure cookers hissing like locomotives, sterilizing the day's lentils. Iceboxes and coolers at thriving carts in middle-class neighborhoods, because regulars ask questions. A hawker changing oil daily because his father taught him how to smell when it's past its best. A temple kitchen preparing food as prasad with a cleanliness that bordered on obsessive, because the line between devotion and duty is thin here. I also saw what no one should ignore, neighborhoods where tap water isn't safe without boiling. Long distances between clinics and the people who need them. Families who know exactly what contamination is but can't afford to avoid it every time. If you're a traveler, this is the honest advice locals gave me, and I followed. Go where the line of locals is long. Eat what turns over fast. Prefer cooked to order. Watch the stall for a minute. Carry oral rehydration salts just in case. Respect your body's limits, and when in doubt, choose the restaurant with a fresh oil smell and a hand-washing station. It's not cynicism. It's common sense. The last spoonful. On my final night, we returned to where we began. A dahi puri cart. The vendor recognized me, which is to say I had become a character in his evening routine. He made one for Mira, one for me, and then, grinning, stacked a third with extra sev and a dusting of chopped masala that looked like confetti. For the road, he said. We ate in silence, and the city hummed its big, relentless song. Somewhere, a pressure cooker sighed. Somewhere else, a sweet syrup thickened to the thread stage. In a kitchen I could not see, a grandmother folded batter that had been quietly ripening all night. In a lane lit by festival lamps, a vendor counted coins he'd earned one careful plate at a time. Here's the truth, then, for anyone who has ever scrolled past a clip and thought, no way, India's food is not a dare. It is a library. The hand you fear is a tool of gratitude and control. The spice you dread is architecture. Layered, tempered, purposeful. The dirt you think you see is more complicated than a camera frame, and so is the cleanliness you miss outside it. Faith doesn't just ban or bless. It cooks. It decides when onions are dessert and when milk is sacred. 1 billion+ people don't eat one thing. They eat thousands, often side by side. As we said goodbye, Mira gave me a list to carry home. Not of must-eat places, but of questions to ask anywhere in the world I choose to eat. Who made this, and what do they believe about food? What does clean look like here at this stall in this season? What technique protects this dish? Fermentation, frying, boiling, souring? What is celebrated in this bite? Scarcity, abundance, memory, ritual? What story gets told and what story gets cut for clicks? I left full not just of food, but of context. And maybe that's what makes India difficult for some travelers. It asks you to taste with your mouth and your mind, to pick up bread with your right hand and also pick up nuance, to hold, in one bite, faith and physics, celebration and caution, onion and sugar, to accept that strange is often just unfamiliar, and unsafe is often a question without a camera-ready answer. When the plane lifted off over the city, I could still feel the crisp shell of that first puri breaking in my palm, still taste the cool of yogurt, still hear Dr. San explaining how boiling works, still see Arif salting kebabs in a rhythm he'd learned from his father. The neon streets fell away, but the 5 plates remained, lodged where all good stories live, behind the teeth, between memory and myth, ready to be told honestly. So if you come to India, come hungry. For food, yes, but also for perspective. The kind that makes onions into dessert and strangers into teachers. The kind that reminds you, the world's biggest kitchen is not a spectacle to be judged from a screen. It is a table. There's a seat for you. Wash your hands. Sit down. And eat.